Hi there, my name's Jessica Jordan and I run Jessica Jordan Ceramics and also Field Place Pottery in Worthing. Today I'm back in my studio just doing some clay work really. I rolled out a slab of clay yesterday and I've left it to dry so it hardens up, and what I'm going to make today is almost like a box form, which is something new to the work at the moment, so it's more of a development thing more than anything else. You're welcome to join me, have a see what I'm doing. Make a comment please, or make a like, and I'll get on with the workshop. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm just cutting down my slab. So I've rolled out my slab, I've done it a reasonable thickness so you can sort of see it on this here, and at the moment this is about sort of just before level hard, so it's got a little bit of give, which is what we want, and it's not completely hard at the moment, but it could quite easily snap if I was to bend it, so it's got no flexibility in it at the moment, and that's what we're sort of wanting, especially when we're sort of doing a box form. So what I'm going to do is, as part of this, I'm just going to cut my sides out of the actual slabs that I've already cut. So I'm doing that by using just a piece of wood that I have just there. So they're both going to be the same sort of size. And there we go. So what I've got here, and I'll roll myself out of bottom in a bit, is I've got my two fronts, well, my front and my back I should say, and then I've got my two sides as well. So what I want to do is just to scuff up the edge here. So you can do this sort of two different ways really. You can either bevel the edge, so what I mean by a bevel is that just there, so you can bevel the edge and then join, so you've got the joins on the outside of the piece, or you can have it as a flat, or you can have it as a flat on top. Now I'm going to do it as a flat on top rather than beveling the edges, because I quite like this line that comes down here as well, and I'm going to use that as part of it. So I'm just going to find my serrated kidney. So the serrated kidney is the one with the jagged edges. You can just sort of see that just there. So that's my serrated kidney. And I'm just going to just score down this edge first, and then score down my other edge. So I've gone one way at the moment, and then I'm going to go crossways. So I really sort of scuff up that clay, and then I'm going to put some slip on there as well. And again. Again, just really scuff that up. And then the edge that I'm going to join, which is that one just there, as again I'm going to sort of scuff that up as well. Perfect, lovely job. Right, so we need some slip now. Brush. So I've put a little blue into my slip just so you can sort of see what it is. Just going down the sides. And then again I'm going to go over the top of that and just work that into the surface. So I don't tend to use too much slip in my stuff, but obviously it needs to have some sort of glue on there just to hold it in place. A little bit more water. So if you haven't got any slip to hand, a good way of making up some slip is just to take a round ball of clay, place your thumb in the centre, take a paintbrush and some water, and then just move that around inside. And then what that will do is that will just scuff up all that clay on the inside. If you carry on, that's going to make you some nice sort of sticky slip to go into your work. And then once you finish with this, this can be basically put back into the bag and reused. So there you go, got some really nice sort of slip just there. And that's what I'm going to just place onto my piece. A little bit more water in there. And I'm going to do some slip on the outside of this as well. So because they're both quite dry, I'm going to put a slip on both sides today. And then that is just going to line up like so. And I'm going to push that down ever so slightly, like so. So the reason why that's standing up quite nicely is because it's sort of semi-dry. And I'm going to roll a coil of clay now. So I just start off with a little sausage, and then I'm going to roll out a little coil of clay. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to put a coil of clay going down this edge on the inside. So just rolling out a coil of clay. So I don't want it too thick, ideally, but we do need it to seal the inside of the piece and also to bring those two sides together as well. So I'm going to place that down on the inside and just push that in. So I'm just going to show you that so you can sort of see that. Let me see. I've just done there. So I've put the coil of clay just on the inside, just going down there. And then what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to work that into the surface. So what we want to do is to pull the clay up, pull the clay down, and actually then integrate that into the surface of both sides. And I'll do this with a tool in a minute. I'm just doing it with my thumb just to sort of show you really. Okay, so let's push it back. So, I'm going to carry on now. So as you can see, I'm also protecting the outside surface with my hand so that when I push into the surface, I'm not dislodging this top part. So I'm going to go in with a tool now. So using a thumb tool, which is one of these little wooden ones, I'm just going to go down the side. What I've just done is I've smoothed that in. Just going to go over my kidney, take any of the excess off. Make sure that's completely attached on both sides. And just make sure that that's all nice and straight as well. And then we're going to do the other side. So same sort of thing, I've already cut my side, and this is just sort of leather hard. So I'm going to score down the edge there, and again just re-score into this as well. I just need to check where that is at the top. So again, just going to a line. Make sure that's there. Coil of clay. Actually, I can use this one. Again, place that just going down that line, using my finger just to push in. Take off a bit of that excess. And then again, we're going to pull down. Like so. Make sure that's pushed in. Pull my finger along there, and then again I'm going to pour the clay upwards onto that surface to make sure that that's joined. And then I'm going to smooth it in. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure that that's really combined. Perfect. And just remove the excess. Right, stop for a swig of tea. Otherwise it goes cold and I can't stand cold cup of tea. Right, I'm going to do the same again. So I'm going to wet up the surface along here and score. A little bit more slip on that. So the slip acts like it's glue really, holding it to the side of the pot and just holds everything together. So it is important to, especially if your slabs are quite dry, to actually have some slip. If your slabs are particularly wet, or you're working with particularly wet clay, then it's not necessary that you need lots of slip, and you can get away with just using a little bit. And as these slabs are really, really dry, that's why I'm using quite a bit of slip today. So again, brush that in. But I'm not caping on my slip. That's the most important thing. Is that there's not loads and loads of slip going onto this. Right. So again, there's a couple of different ways you can go about this. Because my slab's quite dry, I can quite easily pick up and I can quite easily place down on top. And that's absolutely fine, and then sort of look to stand up. Or what I can do is I can stand this piece up, because again it will hold its weight, and then I can offer up my slab to that, which is quite a nice way to do it, because then I can actually make sure that the piece stands, but also I can manipulate the sides a bit more when I'm putting it together. Check both sides. I don't mind if it's not completely aligning, because I quite like it when it ever so slightly juts out. But you might be a bit of a perfectionist and you want it to sort of line up, so then you'll sort of play around a bit, and then these bits that sort of slightly jut out we can then sort of cut off. But I quite like that, so I'm going to keep that. I'm just going to tidy this a little bit up at the top, just over here, and then what I'm going to do on the inside of here is just where I have just joined that slab, I'm going to put another coil of clay going down here and down here, so that's the tricky part, just so I can make sure that those two walls are perfectly together. So I'm just doing a couple of tweaks to the side. And just what I'm doing is I'm just running my finger down here just to make sure that that is nicely joined on the outside, and that I've got a strong join on the outside as well. So the same here as well. So let's just join that together. So I used to make forms like this when I was back at university at the Surrey Institute of Art Design, and I haven't made these for, oh, it's got to be going on about 20 years now, and I retaught this sort of session to a couple of my students, and I forgot how much I enjoyed making these forms, if I'm honest. So that's the front of my form there. So I'm hopefully going to make a couple of these, because I want them as almost like paintings, so 3D paintings that can actually go onto your side. I quite like the sort of shape that you sort of get, and the fact that you can actually sort of go up onto a sideboard rather than the wall. But there's no reason why I couldn't actually potentially put a hole at the back here, and actually that could go up on the wall, so that's a potential idea for perhaps later on. But this one's made to sort of stand, because the whole point of my work is that as you turn it around, and the same with my vessels as well, is that you get a different picture. So this is about the murmuration of birds at the moment, and the sunset coming in just down here. So around here you've got the murmuration of birds just coming through, and they're flying over the landscape, and the sun is setting, and you get the sort of idea of the actual sort of sun just sort of coming through in different areas, and then these birds murmurating across the actual piece as well. So let's get those coils done and have a sneaky swig of tea again. So if you don't know my work, I'm based in Littlehampton, but I have a studio in Worthing, and I teach classes on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and I have a closed group on a Friday at the moment. But that's not to say that that won't be opened up when this is all over. But I can also do one-to-one classes and do sort of 2-to-1 classes, or little bubbles as well. So if you want to bring your family and do a class, I'm quite happy to do that with you as well. Or you can sort of go and see my own work, which is all based on landscapes, and they're all based on sort of vessels, so different types of vessels. And I look at the landscape and I take aerial images of the landscape, and then, excuse me, and then abstract them out to produce the surfaces on my pots. So I print and paint onto the surface of my pots, as well as using objects to impress into the surface. So there's lots and lots of different techniques I tend to sort of use with my work. It's not just one little technique, it's a variety of different techniques. So a lot of the surface colour that you see has been printed by using sort of newspaper and painting onto the surface of newspaper, and then taking a print from that across to the ceramic surface. And then I've used objects to impress into the surface of the clay. And then again I've taken the slabs and I've ripped them to pieces and put them back together again, so it gives you that idea of a landscape being put back together, which I'm fascinated by. And also I'm quite fascinated by birds at the moment, so I've got a huge interest in the murmuration and the movement of birds. So at the moment they seem to be playing quite a huge part in the development of my work. And there's nothing better than watching a flock of birds flying around. So I need to just join down at the bottom, so I'll turn this over in a second. I'm just going to do the other side. So the clay that I'm using is called Earthstone Smooth Texture, and I always use Earthstone Smooth Texture just because it's a really hard wearing clay. It comes from Valentine's, but I buy mine from Clayman, who is in Pagham. So if you're local and you're looking for clay, the Clayman is one of the better ones to sort of go to in this area. You've also got a couple of others, but I've not used those really. So for me, because he's just down the road, I use the Clayman, and he's very good, very knowledgeable about ceramics and everything to do with ceramics. So worth going in if you're looking for anything in particular. So I've just put the coil in and I'm just smoothing out now. So again, I'm making sure I'm getting that on both sides and I'm smoothing into the top and take off that excess just there. Right, I'm going to turn this over. Just lay down very gently because I don't want to ruin my top. I'm just going to smooth that bottom part in. So what I could put underneath this, so that I don't destroy that top part at all, is you can use a bit of plastic. I'm going to fold this over like a pillow. Okay, so it acts as a little cushion. Don't really want to put it down on a hard surface. Or if you've got a bit of a pillow would do, or a bit of foam, that's pretty good. So I've normally got a piece of foam in here that I lay everything out on. So we're in my home studio today in Littlehampton. And this is my own personal studio. So all classes take part in field place pottery. Why have you done that? There we go. that's all together. So I don't know if you can see that on the inside. I've just joined that all together, and I'm going to do a bit of a tidy up as well, but I need that to sort of dry out just a little bit more. So I've kept the top as I have cut the slab actually, so this is how it's rolled out, and I quite like that. I can cut that and actually have it as a complete block, but I quite like that sort of little rough nature, just those little rough bits, and then it's not too perfect. I don't want it too perfect, if I'm honest, because this isn't to be sort of used for flowers or anything along those lines, because I'm actually mostly going to put like a little tiny step on the inside here, just so it's a full sort of square, so it can't be used, because I want something that actually is more sculptural, really, more than anything else. So that's what I'm after. So what I'm just going to do is I need to roll out a base. So I'm going to roll myself out a base, and then I will decide on what I'm going to do with the top part. So I've got a little tiny bit of clay. I'm going to roll that out. So what I'm going to do first though is I'm going to shape it. So rather than going from a circle, I want to go from a sort of square or rectangle. Ideally a rectangle. Bit of clay on my rolling pin. If you notice, I never keep my clay still, it's constantly moving. That's supposed to be about right. Yeah, plenty. So I'm going to cut round this, leaving just a little bit of space all the way around. Now I can see that I've bowed it in ever so slightly here as well, obviously whilst I've been handling it. So I'm going to push that out a bit. Cheeky swivel tea before it cools down too much. That's better. That's it. Perfect. Right, so I'm just going to score around that just so I know where to put the marks. Again, scoring up the bottom. I want some slip. I'm showing here. Do the same on the base. And that's going to go on top. Just make sure I've got it all there. Yep. Tap down just to make sure that you're really pushing that down on top. And then we're going to cut down, just going to make sure I haven't pushed that in. Well, that seems okay. And then we're going to just cut round. So just taking it right the way down. To a tiny bit of clay either side. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull that clay upwards just to create a bond for that base more than anything else. Do the same down here as well. Right, so what I've just done there is I've just pulled up the clay just to make sure that it's attached. I'm just looking for my little whirler. There it is. Just so I can take a look at it all the way around. So I can leave that like that if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to actually just take my sort of finger and actually just make that into something. What I will do, little tip, is put a piece of paper on your whirler, because what I tend to find is that your clay piece will stick to your whirler and then you can't get it off. And we don't want that. And then what I will do is almost give that a couple of marks, and then I will get a little bit of the blue slip and go over the top of that so that integrates that bottom part in. So if I think it's sort of jutting out a little bit too much, I'm just going to use my knife and take away some of that excess. And there we go, we've got a little box form, so I'm quite happy with that actually. I think that's quite nice. And then I'm going to do something with the top. So give it a couple of weeks and then hopefully it will be out of the kiln and ready for you to sort of see as a finished piece. Thank you for watching, guys. If you want to pop over to my website at all, you can go to jessicajordanceramics.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram or on Facebook as well. Again, it's Jessica Jordan Ceramics. And if you want to come and do a class with me, look for Field Place Pottery and I'll be able to do that with you. So thanks for joining me today and hopefully I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.